The Fragments of Love, Chapter 3, Mothers Always Know. A story by Sammy K. Itea Calumet, his mother. My son has always been the center of my life. This was true when he was born, and it is still true today. His marriage to Vanessa allowed me to understand how it feels to love a daughter and have that daughter love me. Vanessa has a wonderful mother and she has never needed an extra, but she is my bonus child. It has been both a blessing and a joy to see their love grow and blossom over these years. Neither one of them are perfect, but their love is perfect for them. To see my child in a loving relationship means more to me than I can explain. He grew up knowing my love, but his father never learned how to demonstrate his love to the people that he truly loved, if that makes sense. I know, it really doesn't make sense. No matter, my son and I both survived. My deceased husband firmly believed in the ownership of property. He worked two jobs most of his life in order to leave his son financially secure. He didn't leave his love, but he left his legacy. My son has added to his inheritance many times over. Marcus and Vanessa live in a beautiful home that sits in the middle of 6 acres of lushness. My modest cottage sits on the same property a little less than a mile away. A winding road lined with a combination of wildflowers and evergreens connects our homes. We jointly own a large working horse farm 10 miles outside of the city. The original house built by my husband is where I spent most summers. Marcus and Vanessa have a large home that they use for short vacations. Their children actually spend more time at the farm than their parents. It is a beautiful homestead. There was not much joy in the early years, but the present more than makes up for it. Marcus and Vanessa started a co op 20 years ago that provides fresh produce for the nearby Native American community at no cost. I personally find the word commonly used to describe these communities to be offensive. This evening, Marcus drove past me without even seeing me. The look on his face spoke volumes. I could see the simmering look of anger so familiar in his father, but rarely present in my son. My son, who has always been slow to anger. Of course, I am concerned, but I never invite myself into other grown folks' business, even my children. Both Tina and I have been worried about the mood swings Vanessa has been trying desperately to ignore. She refuses to accept that the hormonal roller coaster of most women will bring the strongest woman to her knees. Chances are Marcus is more moody than usual, and Vanessa is more emotional. It is the love and respect they have for each other that has helped their marriage survive their stark differences in personalities. At this point, all I can do is pray for their children too, but all I can do is pray for my children, well, all of them. I will ask God to prepare all of us for the storm that I know is headed this way. I just know. Tina Morgan, her mother. I woke up this morning with a heavy heart. This usually means that I need to get myself prayed up because a storm is brewing on the horizon. When Vanessa told me last night about the cruise she booked, I wanted to cry. There was nothing loving about her decision. We all know that Marcus hates cruises. She doesn't want him to go. My firstborn child entered a world where she was treated like the blessing that she was, that she is. I had two miscarriages prior to her birth and had almost given up hope of ever holding my own baby in my arms. The loss of two babies had left me emotionally drained and very much afraid. I remember thinking that God had abandoned me and I wasn't meant to be a mother. I was wrong on both counts. Delvin and I doted on our tiny, beautiful baby girl. Vanessa was born with a strong attitude. My mother was a tiny woman with a big, warm heart. Vanessa is a tiny woman with a good heart and a big, bossy mouth. I can say this because she is my baby. Nobody else can. She's also a wonderful daughter. She was her daddy's princess from the day she was born until the day he died. I will miss him greatly over the next few days. Well, over the next few weeks. She married Marcus and became his queen in every sense of the word. Being loved is all she has ever known. Her emotions, all of them, are full of passion. Her loyalty to those she loves is phenomenal. Her wrath is almost scary. Trying to tell her something she does not want to hear is a total waste of time. When I was going through the change of life, I felt as if someone else was sharing my body. I didn't even know myself. My poor husband told me that he seriously thought about leaving me. I truly understand. And I have a laid back personality. I knew that Vanessa would be a force to be reckoned with. Poor Marcus. Poor all of us. Like so many other young women, Vanessa is convinced that older women could never understand the restlessness that is sure to show up during our lifetime. Most people wonder if this is all there is to their life. It is not unusual to feel like a mere shadow of a strong man, even one that is kind and gentle. Like Marcus, like my Delvin. I know that she is headed for a hard fall. I have no choice but to surrender my fears to the Lord. I need to check my blood pressure because now I have a big time headache. This is going to be a very long day. If grown children would just understand that a loving parent will rarely tell them anything that is not for their own good. Some of them just will not listen. Mothers always know. We just do. The Fragments of Love, Chapter 4. Vanessa Departs. A story by Sammy Kay. Vanessa Calumet, The Cruise. The days leading up to my departure were strained. Marcus and I managed to successfully avoid each other. We made love the night before he left for New York, because no matter what is going on in our lives, we have always been able to keep our passion flowing. Our libidos have always been in sync with each other. I must admit, there was almost a feeling of sadness. I quickly pushed that thought aside. I um, I don't need to go there. I am not going there. I made the right decision. Okay, I am excited about my trip. I've purposely kept my true feelings to myself. My mother acted as if someone had passed away. Nani Tia has been unusually quiet. Even Lena has been cautious regarding her comments, which is a little weird, but I don't push it. I casually mentioned my trip to my children in order to avoid any questions that I had no intention of answering. I even chose to drive myself to the dock and leave the car in the parking lot. That's a biggie for me because my car is my baby. The cabin was beautiful. The fact that I was unable to get a refund for Marcus never entered my mind. My mother told me that I should at least be honest with myself and admit that I wanted to go alone. Okay, okay. I will admit that fact to myself. I can do that. I slept most of the first 2 days. I had no idea how tired I was. I actually missed a couple of meals. The morning of the third day found me rested and ready to enjoy this trip. The people assigned to my table were all very nice. I was the only single person, and the seat assigned to Marcus remained empty. I simply refused to look at it. He chose not to come. The ease in which I moved around the ship was surprising to me. I have been a married woman for most of my life, but seriously, I felt anything but like a married woman. I drank, I danced, I did whatever I felt like doing, and it felt good. The first week flew by. So far, I had enjoyed every moment of the trip. I did remember to email Marcus 3 times during the first week. I love music, and the band was awesome. I noticed the same very handsome man always sat in the same seat. He seemed to be alone. Our eyes had locked a couple of times and we both smiled. It felt nice. 2 nights before we were scheduled to return home, one of the band members asked the man if he would join them. To my surprise, he was an amazing drummer. I stood up and clapped loudly when he finished. I wanted him to see me. He came directly over to my table and asked if I enjoyed his performance. We sat at my table we stayed at my table and talked until the club closed for the morning. He had ordered wine, and we finished off a couple of bottles. Yeah, whole bottles, top shelf bottles too. I remember how nice and naughty his first passionate kiss was. Marcus is the only man that I had ever kissed before now. We ended up going back to my cabin. The sex was hot and forceful, almost rough, but apparently not too rough for me to stop. We spent the last 2 days in my cabin, in bed, drinking, and having sex. Finally, it was time to prepare to leave the ship. He left the room and I ran a long overdue bath. Just nasty. But I felt good. But when I eased into the hot water, I remember feeling, I felt a stinging, almost burning sensations over the lower region of my body. I suddenly felt a sense of panic. I quickly finished washing my aching body and went to the bathroom to make a thorough examination. I got the mirror from my suitcase and was shocked by what I saw. My groin area was covered in deep, small bite marks from just below my stomach to the inside of my thighs. I wanted to die instantly, but I didn't. If I had planned on going home and keeping my leap into nastiness and adultery a secret, this was a serious wake-up call. These bruises would not quickly disappear. My complexion and their depth would make that impossible. I suddenly felt as if I had been hit by a train. I couldn't even cry. I don't remember packing my suitcases and leaving the cabin. I do remember seeing my nameless lover getting into his car and driving away. My tears did not begin to fall until I pulled into the garage of my home. My husband would be home in 48 hours. What was I going to do?